and welcome to your Media Studies guidance video where we're looking at how to get the best results on the Eduqas GCSE Media Studies course. Today we're looking at the NEA coursework and specifically how to write the Statement of Aims. So, the Statement of Aims is an important part of your coursework. It's a short written piece of only 250 words. And whilst this is barely anything really, you do need to pack quite a lot of very specific content in there. So it's really important that you plan it properly and use this guidance. It's a good idea to know what you're trying to do here, however. So keep in mind that the Statement of Aims is your chance to explain to the examiner exactly what you're trying to achieve in your production coursework in terms of how you're going to use 1. Form and genre conventions, 2. How you're going to appeal to your target audience, and 3. How you will address a representation. So these 3 areas will structure your Statement of Aims for you. So we'll have a closer look at each of them to make sure that you know exactly what to write. Now, the key to doing this really well is to find that balance between keeping your writing short and making sure that it contains enough detail to gain the marks. Be as focused in your writing style as you can be. Make sure that every sentence you write is earning you marks. It's a good idea to start with a brief introduction, so remembering to keep it short and to the point, explain what it is that you're creating, what genre it is and who your target audience is. Don't feel like you need to give a long, intricate introduction. Just state very clearly what you're trying to produce. So, say something like, my media production is a movie poster from the teen genre. I will be trying to attract a teen, young adult audience of both male and females, and I'll be using the subgenre of science fiction. So nice and clear, straight to the point, very direct and very focused. Don't worry about sort of flowery language or trying to sort of fill up a word count. You've got a very limited amount of words. So after the introduction, next spend about 70 to 100 words on media language. Identify very specific examples of how you will use conventions of the form and genre. So remember that media language refers to all of the different ways that a media product communicates with its audience and creates meaning. So that could be the choice of image, the style of typography and font, the layout and design, the colouring, etc. So choose a few strong examples of specific creative choices that you've made, which show that you are using the specific genre conventions. So you could say something like, as my genre is teen movies with a subgenre of science fiction, I will be using an image of a teenage hero in a futuristic costume. She will be holding a space gun of some kind, and there will be a background image of space and stars in order to conform to typical genre conventions of science fiction. A few of those examples is all you need. Remember, you are writing in a very brief style. But be specific, detailed and brief. Next, identify your target audience and again give a few examples for how you're going to attract them specifically. Make sure that your examples are different to the ones you already mentioned, or at least that you're discussing a different aspect of those ones if they're sort of big main things. Also, be sure to mention things which directly appeal to your specific target audience. And finally, discuss representation. You will have chosen a specific social group, most likely gender, although it could be maybe age or ethnicity. But explain whether you are creating a stereotypical or a non-stereotypical representation, and then give a few more words of description to identify the way that you're trying to portray them. So, for example, I will be creating a non-stereotypical representation of women in my media product. I want to portray women as being strong, empowered, capable and confident. Next, give some examples of how you will do that, how you will construct that representation. Perhaps talk about how many of your group are included, like how many women there are on the front page, for example, what they're wearing perhaps, how big the image is on your media product. You could talk about their pose and body language and what that sort of signifies. All of those are aspects of media language, and they're all very important when it comes to representation. But you can talk about any of the aspects of media language. It's probably too numerous to go into right here. With those areas discussed, however, you should certainly be up to your word limit. Remember, you've only got 250 words. Once you get there, make sure that obviously you've spell checked and proofread your work. You can lose marks for bad literacy, so don't lose those marks unnecessarily. Remember, this is a drafting process. Don't just finish and then hand it in. Go back and think about ways that you can maybe improve your work, make it more focused and direct. A really, really strong strategy that you can use is to read your work out loud. If you've got someone there that you can read it to, all the better. But it works even if you're just reading it aloud to yourself, because you'll pick up on any of the sentences which don't quite scan properly, or areas where maybe you haven't articulated the thought that you had in quite the way that you at first intended. It's amazing what comes out when you actually read it out loud, and you get a sense of what it's like reading it from a different person's perspective. Remember that you'll get feedback on this, and you'll get one chance to improve it. So make sure that this draft is the best that it can possibly be. If you do that, then when you get your feedback, it will be things which you're able to implement rather than just stuff that you already know is wrong with it. Okay, so with that said, there's plenty for you to be getting on with there. Make sure that you plan your work before you start. Use the guidance given, use the workbook given as well as this video, and best of luck.